This is a story of Julie Wheeler, a coworker that I actually worked with a couple of years ago. Julie was charged with healthcare fraud in September of 2019. Julie had initially pleaded guilty to healthcare fraud on February 11th, 2020. She faced up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. She was to be sentenced on June 17th of 2020. Wheeler defrauded the spina bifida healthcare benefits program and stole hundreds and thousands of dollars from taxpayers. She was stating that she was spending 8 hours per day taking care of a veteran's child, also a family member, who had spina bifida and getting paid to do so. The VA provides benefits and services to veterans and their dependents. The VA provides benefits to certain Korean and Vietnam War veterans' children who have been diagnosed with spina bifida through the Spina Bifida Healthcare Benefits Program. Julie admitted to defrauding the VA of hundreds and thousands of dollars because she wasn't actually spending that time to take care of the person diagnosed with spina bifida. Julie and her husband Rodney were at one time owners of a home care services company called JRW Home Care Support Services. She was hired to take care of the victim because of their condition. The VA approved Julie's services at a rate of $736 per day for 8 hours. This was to include things like bathing, grooming, changing clothes, and any other things the child needed, such as food intake. Julie submitted fraudulent documents stating that she was working 8 hours and taking care of the victim and was overpaid for her services due to this reason. Julie stated she had been providing care for 8 hours per day, 7 days per week, but there were several witnesses that attested she did not provide the services for as long as she claimed. On May 31st, 2020, just before Julie Wheeler was sentenced after pleading guilty to healthcare fraud, her husband, Rodney Wheeler, who was 48 at the time, called 911 frantically and claimed that his wife, Julie, had fallen off a cliff while at Grandview Overlook in the New River Gorge National Park, West Virginia. The overlook is steep with a series of ledges leading down to the New River. The 911 call prompted a huge search for Julie, who Rodney said he believed was still alive. Local authorities made a huge effort to locate Julie, who had allegedly fallen off a 1,400-foot cliff. The search and rescue teams were comprised of local ambulance authorities as well as volunteers. They used helicopters and search dogs in an attempt to find her. They also used rappelling experts to rappel down the cliff to search for her. Rodney made a heartfelt post on Facebook stating, "The accident at Grandview yesterday involved my wife. They have not found her yet, but I am holding out hope that she will be found and is okay. I am heartbroken and lost right now, but I have to have faith. Please give us time to work through this, and please keep us in your thoughts and prayers." They had found her phone and an earring at the scene of where they claimed she had fallen, but this had all been faked to avoid a prison sentence. Julie was found 3 days later hiding in her closet in her own home. The Wheelers had intended to lie low for a while after faking her death and eventually run away together after receiving a life insurance settlement check. They were both taken into custody. Julie and her husband risked the lives of law enforcement professionals and utilized critical resources to try to save or recover her body.
So you said that there was a plan. What was the initial conversation that she or they both had with you before this all got started? How did you first find out that they were going to do this whole plan?
Well, she brought it up to me in February of 2020, I think it was.
So Julie had this plan, at least in her mind, since February of 2020.
And she says, she's like, "What do you think about me trying to basically fake my death and get out of this?" And I essentially looked at her and I essentially said, "What in the expletive are you talking about?" Like, I looked at her and I was like, "What are you talking about? You don't actually think that could work, do you?"
Even Julie's own son told her that her plan was crazy and would never work.
And she was convinced that if she went out there, and her plan was, is she had her card at the time, and she said that she was just going to take it out there and leave a note, and in her words, figure out exactly where she's going a little bit closer as far as like hiding goes.
So it seems like Julie's initial plan was to take her car somewhere and leave a note, and then she was going to figure out where she was going to go afterwards. I've cut some parts of this podcast out just for time's sake, but listen to what he has to say about his mother when they got into a disagreement about her faking her own death.
She basically started making a bunch of threats. Like, she made threats of like suicide and all kinds of things. She, at one point, what she did is she basically battered everybody in the house and made their lives miserable, and basically told us that if we didn't do this for her, that she was going to make sure that we never had a peaceful day another as long as we live. She threatened to kill herself on multiple occasions. She wrote letters and then would like talk about them in order to get us to do this. And she just like beat everybody down and was super manipulative, and it was horrible.
So essentially, Julie manipulated her own family and made their lives a living hell just so that they would cooperate with her in her faking her own death. Julie was sentenced to 54 months in jail. 42 of those months were for healthcare fraud, and another 12 months were added on for the attempt to fake her own death. These must be conserved consecutively. Julie was ordered to pay $300,000 in restitution. Rodney Wheeler was sentenced to 8 months confinement for his role in the conspiracy to obstruct justice. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy to obstruct justice on January 5th, 2021. Rodney was ordered to serve 2 months of incarceration in a federal prison and then followed by 6 months of home confinement and 3 years of supervised release.